Good morning, good morning, good morning. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and you are breathing. Today is Saturday, November the 25th, 2023. My name is Stephen Carnegie. This is Just a Thought. Hey, before I go any further, I would like for you all to hit that like and subscribe button along with that bell so you get notified when I drop these podcasts. Keep you in the loop. Hey, whether you're a first-time listener or a returning listener, hit that like. And if you know some folks that you might find what I say, whether yay or nay, interesting, share. Let them know. This is Just a Thought with Stephen Carnegie. Hey. Can't hurt my feelings. I'm pretty thick-skinned. I think I've heard it all before. So, hey, hit that like and subscribe button along with that bell and get notified when I drop these podcasts. And share. Let people know. I can use some more subscribers. I can use some more back and forth and banter with folks, if you will. All right, let's move along here. Man, today's word of the day is jovial, which means cheerful or full of happiness. Jovial. Man, I certainly know everyone is jovial. It's that time of the year, coming off of Thanksgiving. Man, I just thought about it. It's 5 more days left in November. And then we're headed, might as well say, the end of the year. We all know how fast December goes by. 31 days or not, it zooms by. And before you know it, we'll be celebrating New Year. But I certainly hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving, spending time with family and friends. Maybe you were fortunate enough to have the day off and you got more time to socialize and eat. Yeah, I stuffed myself. I gotta stop. That's absurd. I gotta stop. But at whatever little weight I lost, I hope I didn't gain it back because I stuffed myself. I just did. Couldn't help it. But I hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving nonetheless. A year after COVID or coming out of COVID, I think now we can all just sit around and enjoy each other's company. We'll have to worry about quarantining. Still need to wash your hands, of course, and sanitize. But it's certainly, you don't have to sit there and just douse everyone in the house with disinfectant spray and hand sanitizer. Just don't. Not unlike before, we were coming out of COVID, man. It was hand sanitizer and disinfectant spray all over the place. That's all you smell. That's all you smell. All right, let's move along here. So I hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving. Let's move along, man. We had some football on Thanksgiving Day, of course. What would Thanksgiving be without the NFL? Be pretty boring. Don't get me wrong. I don't think this year I didn't watch those parades. I just kind of missed it. But in addition to football, I did catch that Westminster Dog Show. I did. I caught a little bit of it. I ain't much of a dog lover, but there was pretty good looking dogs up there. Let's just say that. So what would we be without Thanksgiving, without football? The Green Bay Packers played the Detroit Lions, and they won. The Packers won 29-22, which was surprising. It surprised me and countless others. The Lions have been on such a roll this year, and then they get to the Packers, and they defeated the Packers earlier this year. But it looked like Goff was just off his game. They couldn't get the running game going. That defense, man, they made Jordan Love look like a star again. They just did. Whatever the case, maybe they just had one bad game. But, man, it was not what everyone had anticipated. It's like I said, I just knew the Lions had won the game. It was no shocker to me. So I thought. But, hey, Jordan Love, he's starting to look good. He just won the game. The previous 2 or 3 games, he's been struggling. So, those commentators and those sports analysts, they're on the Jordan Love bandwagon again. Or his sack. Boy, you guys are hilarious to me. Just are. And in a later game of the day, the San Francisco 49ers defeated the Seattle Seahawks 31-13. Hey, 49ers are look like they got back in their groove because, for a while, about 2 or 3 games ago, they were looking horrible. There was a question of, especially for myself and others, why in the world did I pick them to take the NFC and represent the NFC in the Super Bowl? But it looks like they're getting back together. They're getting their mojo back, if I could say that. So we'll see what happens. Like I always say, this is the NFL. It's anybody's game, any given Sunday or Thursday. And the final game of Thursday. Dallas Cowboys versus the Washington Commanders. Cowboys won 45-10. Yeah, they put a hurting on the Commanders. Man, the Commanders, they couldn't do anything. They just stalled out. Like the old Washington of old. If you listen a week or so ago, I talked about the Commanders and how they were looking totally different and good, and they quite possibly could be that team that could creep their way right into the playoffs or at a wild card at least and cause some havoc. But they didn't look like that Thursday. They look horrible. And them boys. Oh, their fans. They won't shut up. They won't shut up to save their life. They are still yapping. Probably be yapping the next week. But I still say it, and I stand by it. That infamous Cowboys skid and flop is coming. It's coming. It just is. And yesterday there was a game Friday. The Miami Dolphins versus the New York Jets. The Dolphins won, of course, 34-13. The woes continue for the Jets, looks like. There's still talk, or I'm not sure if this is an actual factual thing or if this is just fans and commentators just hoping and praying. They're saying Aaron Rodgers could be back by the end of the season. I don't see that. Unless something magical happens or he's somehow, some way blessed by the highest of high. No pun intended. I don't think he's going to be back this year. I think he's done. I just do. All right, let's move along here, man. And a little bit of new, I won't say odd news, but we're going to go to COVID. The UK's Prime Minister Sunak, he may be in a little bit of a trouble, and he has a whole lot of explaining to do, because reportedly the country, they had the COVID outbreak, and in 2020. There was I guess you would call him a minister of scientific health or whatever, the equivalent to Dr. Fauci, recorded a diary entry where he said that one of his confidential informants, I guess, or another member of that parliament or government they were in a meeting of some sorts, and it came out that the now Prime Minister Sunak, Sunak took over for Boris Johnson, who was ousted because of his lackadaisical attitude towards COVID, the drinking. That guy always looked like he was coming off of a bender anyway, hair all over the place, cheeks flustered, eyes bloodshot red. Yeah, he was a drinker. He was a heavy drinker. Well, he's been kicked out, and Sunak has won the election or whatever some time ago, a year or so ago. And apparently during this Boris Johnson administration, there was a meeting, and Sunak at that time, who was the country's financial advisor or minister or whatever, was heard saying that the UK should just let the folks die that have COVID, rather than go back into a second lockdown. Because if you remember, UK at one point in time, they looked like they was coming out strong, and then COVID came back through again, and it continued its warpath. And he was quoted as saying, hey, maybe it's time we as the government let people die. Now, if you're saying to yourself, how horrible, how could he say that? Let's not forget, when COVID first started here, there was a senator or representative that when it came out that COVID was attacking and brutally harsh on the elderly, he pretty much said the same thing about the elderly. He said, hey, just let them die. Maybe that's what those elected officials, when you put them in office, that's what they really think about us. I mean, hey, you're bleeding the system, I guess. Now, Not being a but you can't say that those British are horrible and evil people. You had some here in the United States that were saying the same thing about the elderly. Just did. Well, now, as I told you, Boris Johnson at that time was voted out. He hasn't come out and said anything. He really can't, because he was really voted out because he was having these day parties, Booze Fest, Boozapalooza. And he was, they were totally ignoring the quarantining, or whatever, or what have you, the isolation. In fact, Sanook here, he was, it's been widely known that him, along with Boris Johnson, they had this thing going where they were, had the pubs open, they were feeding the people, which totally went against COVID protocol as far as quarantine and large gatherings and breathing and drinking all over the food. So he has some explaining to do, because there are some people there in Great Britain that are starting to look at him kind of cockeyed, like, wait a minute. But then you knew he was part of that administration, and then he was behind that program that, like I said, was feeding people at the height of COVID when they were trying to tell people to stay isolated. So they knew. And then they turned around after they kicked old Boris out and elected him. I don't know how much complaining you folks can do. Talk about making your bed hard and laying in it. It's just what you guys did. So we'll see what happens with this. I'm sure he'll come out with some sort of statement denouncing what he said. I gather. You got your this little a guy that's like Dr. Fauci, the scientific administrator or facilitator or whatever he is of the country. He has a recorded diary entry that he got from one of his top-notch counterparts, saying you were in that meeting, said maybe Great Britain should just let the people die. Wow. During that time of COVID, let's just be honest with each other. When COVID first hit, and then, they were saying that the country, Great Britain, got criticism from its citizens because they said they weren't prepared to handle, well, who was? It was the same thing here in the United States. We were criticizing those elected officials, and if we really sat down and thought about it, I mean, they were pretty much going on by ear. We have never, at least my generation, I know there may be some that further down the line going back, but we've never experienced anything like COVID. Let's just be honest with each other here and be honest with yourself. How much of the blame or how much could you really criticize the government at that time and say that, hey, they didn't know what they were doing? Yeah, they didn't know what they were doing. No one did. Everybody was playing it by ear. We were winging it. When COVID first started, they said, it'll be fine. Just treat it like the common cold. Be mindful of where you are. Wash your hands, yada, 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 rah, 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 shish, boom, bah. And then sometime a month or so after that, the CDC and came out and said, okay, it's a totally different ball game. We got to do this. You got to do it. It's not up for negotiation. And then sometime later, of course, came the isolation, the shutdown, the quarantine. Hey, no one knew what the world COVID was. No one knew how to handle it or what to do or what not to do, because we were still having those gatherings. We were still going out and still going to concerts, still going out to eat, drink at the bar or whatever. And then as time progressed, of course, we began to realize our life, that as we had knew it before, as far as going out and just mingling, had changed. Social distancing, 6 feet, face masks, hand sanitizers, disinfectant spray. Just did. So I understand that sounded kind of heartless. And even when that congressman or senator over here or representative or whatever said it here in the United States, I said, that's just heartless. I don't know what the thinking is behind that. I can't give you a definitive answer as to what's the reasoning or rationale behind you just saying let people die or let the elderly die because it's mostly affecting them, it's hitting them the hardest, and they're bleeding the system. I can't give you any explanation for that except just ignorance. You sound like a fool. And if this Prime Minister Sihanouk said that, you sound like a fool. To the representative or senator or whatever elected official here that said that about maybe we should just let grandma die, you sound like a fool. You sound like a complete and whole utter idiot. None of that makes sense. Why would you say that about your citizens? What do you figure the time is up? You can't get to vote anymore, so oh well? Yeah, probably. It just is. I'm not trying to be a butt. I'm not. I'm really not trying to be a butt, but that appears to be the way it is. It was. That's the common consensus. Let's just say that. Oh, man. But yeah, you remember old Prime Minister Boris Johnson. That guy always looked like he was coming up off a bender. And as soon as he finished whatever he was doing as far as the interview or at the parliament, he was going back to continue. He was just wild. He just always looked so disheveled and out of place. Man, hair everywhere, cheeks flustered. His clothes were always wrinkled. Guy was a drunker, just was. And we'll see. We'll see what happens with new Prime Minister Sihanouk. He's going to have some explaining to do. He just is. All right, let's move along here, man. We're going to go to the Sudan. Now, if you know anything about the Sudan, and what I'm going to get ready to talk about is nothing new. This just didn't happen overnight. This has been continuous, and it's been going on for decades, century, maybe a century, close to a century. Well, it's been going on for decades, ever since I can remember. And the thing that really got me about this whole thing was always been something that I've always thought about. I never really spoke about it here on This Is Just a Thought. But like I said, this has been going on for years, decades in the Sudan. And it doesn't get the attention that it so richly deserves. And I'll probably I'm going to tell you why it doesn't. It involves a little bit of the U.S. also. This is it's not a stereotype, it's not a misconception, it's not a myth. This is what is known about how the U.S. really doesn't get involved in what goes on the continent of Africa. They just don't. But what's going on in the Sudan right now, it appears that Arab forces, they are conducting ethnic cleansing. Well, continuous ethnic cleansing, because they've been doing this for years. And we know it. It's not turn a blind eye and say, oh, how horrible, I said that it doesn't get the media attention that it deserves, and that's right. But you have to be under a damn rock all of your life not to know what really and truly goes on in Africa. Or you just turn a blind eye, and it doesn't matter. But this right here, it hasn't reached a fever pitch. It's been going on, but I guess it's getting a little attention, maybe a byline here and there, because I stumbled on the article and I was surprised that I actually read it. I usually have to dig hard and go far to the depths of the end of the earth to find anything of what's going on in Africa. But it appears Arab forces are conducting ethnic cleansing in the Sudan. What it is an African tribe called, I hope I say this right, Masalit tribe, from the city of El Genia. Now, in early November, they've been doing this for the better part of a year, but in early November, they came back to continue or maybe even finish the job of this ethnic cleansing. Now, what has been said by survivors is that they returned in early November, and the killing and raping continued of the citizens of this ethnic cleansing corps. It's called what it is: mass killings. It's mass killings. It has taken place or is taking place at a soccer field and a bridge. Ethnic cleansing, I guess that's the politically correct term that is used, but for me, it's mass killings. Just is. It's mass killings. Killing folks. Rape. Now, also, what it is there is this ethnic cleansing is happening to a certain part of the Sudan, darker skinned Sudanese. So they're pretty much trying to exterminate, mass killings, the darker skinned Sudanese. And they are. They're succeeding. It appears. Now, the Arab forces, they overpowered a Sudanese army base. And they, of course, they killed some of the soldiers. But some of the Sudanese army commanders, they fled. They left. They left their people there to die. I guess that's what commanders do. Those saying go down with the ship, I guess they don't do that anymore. I'm not being funny. I'm just not. But the Arab forces that came in, the Arab military and the militia, they came in and they used these drones to attack. Wait a minute. Doesn't the U.S. supply weapons to Saudi Arabia? Not just missiles, guns, drones. Drones are now, we all know that drones are widely used in military actions now. Ukraine, Russia, Middle East. Yeah, the U.S. does supply these weapons. Not just to the Ukraine, not just to the Israelis, but Saudi Arabia also. This is where these forces are coming from. U.S. government's been pretty hush-hush about that. I haven't heard a peep. I had to dig deep to find this one. All right, let's move along here. Like I said, the Arab forces came in and they overtook the base. They killed the soldiers. And during the massacre, of course, they continued the assault by going outside of the base to a small community and rounding up their men and women. The killing and raping continued. Some of the survivors said that they rounded up the men, hundreds, thousands, rounded them up, took them to a soccer field, and executed them. Point blank. Some that didn't make it to the soccer field, they executed them on that bridge. Point blank. I ain't throwing stones, and I ain't throwing no shade, but come on now. This has been going on far too long. This just didn't happen this year or last year. This has been going on for decades. We've been hearing, or we might get a little slight bump of how this ethnic cleansing is going on in the Sudan, in the other regions. How they're killing the darker Sudanese. Yeah. It still happens in 2023. I know many are saying, well, I can't believe it. Yeah, you can. You can believe it. This is a known fact. It's documented. You can look it up. It ain't no conspiracy theory. It ain't some lone or a group of individuals that have gotten together and came up with this grand scheme to further their cause or discredit another group of individuals. It's a known fact. It's a historical fact. It's been going on for years, decades, centuries. And that's just not in the Sudan. That goes on in just about every country in Africa. More than we think or more than we want to know. So the Arabs come in. They determine that they want to make a better race of people. It sounds eerily familiar. It's always like that. Even in Ukraine and in that area. Because that's what happened years ago back in the 90s with that area up there in Middle Eastern Europe. It was ethnic cleansing going on. Now we find ourselves here in 2023 and it's a continuation. And it's pretty, like I said, this pretty much goes on just about every country on the continent of Africa. to get rid of the darker skinned Africans or whatever part of that country they're in. Why? Boy, it baffles me at times, but then again, it doesn't. And if you heard the old saying about, the darker skinned Africans versus the lighter skin or mulatto, it's the same thing here in America, same thing in Haiti, same thing in Mexico, darker skinned versus light skinned. The light skinned ones are supposed to have messed up the bloodline. The darker you are, you're the main component of that bloodline. Yeah. So if you're going to invade a country and take it over, and you want to erase not only its history or its social economic or its cultural standing, you will try to find that one that is the prominent member, or however you want to word it, and exterminate. And that appears to be what is continuously happening in the Sudan. At one point in time, they were saying the population of this tribe was at like 540,000 people. But that was back in 2022. 540,000 people were a part of this tribe. But now, according to UNICEF, it may be half, if not more. That's how much killing is going on. And we haven't heard a peep about it. Like I said, the survivors are saying they've seen men rounded up and shot. They've seen women rounded up and just brutalized and raped and belittled and degraded. They've seen some men hacked to death, those that weren't shot. So when I say hacked, I mean they use axes or machetes. Yeah. This is 2023. Like I said, some hundreds or thousands or so are taken to the soccer field and they're shot. They're executed. They've seen bloated bodies laying in the streets for days. And they've seen homes burned and looted, with some of the Arab soldiers running off with TVs, microwaves, windows, doors, or whatever. Yes, they needed it for their home. The spoils of war comes to mind as far as that looting and burning goes. Spoils of war. Wow. I have no words. And it's not surprising because, like I said earlier, as far as those drones and weapons goes, when the U.S. started dealing with Saudi Arabia, however many years or whatever ago, I can remember I was a whole lot younger, and I can remember sitting there thinking to myself, I said, "Wow, they're dealing with Saudi Arabia. But wait a minute, ain't Saudi Arabia in Africa looting and trying to destroy a whole a community?" Because that's what they were doing. They were known to take away the history by burning and looting of some very strong African artifacts that goes back damn near to the beginning of time. And if the U.S. is dealing with them and they're giving them weapons, they ain't fighting themselves. They ain't fighting Hamas. They ain't fighting the Taliban. They're in Africa. You see where I'm going? You see where I'm at? So don't give me that nonsense about the U.S. and Saudi Arabia doing business, and it's best for the it's best for the international community as a whole. I don't buy that because I know better. I think for myself. Never been too much of a follower, but yeah, when I first heard the U.S. was dealing with Saudi Arabia all those years ago, I thought to myself, wait a minute. Ain't that the same Saudi Arabia that's in Africa destroying the remnants or history of Kush? That's going through ethnic cleansing, killing a certain group of whoever's native to that country because they want to do away with that bloodline and make it a stronger race. If this offends you, Go up under that rock. Because this is happening and has happened way too often. Continues to happen. It's money to be made. Oil. Now, some of those that are still left or surviving, they have fled to neighboring Chad. Well, Saudi Arabia's been in Chad also. Looks like Saudi Arabia has that part of Africa, that part of Africa. They're everywhere, doing what they want to do, apparently, with the U.S. help. May get in trouble for this, but it is what it is. You have to be a total blundering idiot not to see this, or you just don't care. But it just threw me. It just threw me because I'm listening. I'm hearing, and when they said the thing about the drones, I said, "Wait a minute. They got those from the U.S." Get it in. Get it in. All right, let's go get it. Last podcast I talked to you guys about the juvenile crime statistics here in Durham, North Carolina, and how, it was just unbelievable that the juvenile at this early of an age are doing what they do. They're involved in all of these crimes and the gun possessions, the robberies, and then the 3 young men, juveniles that were arrested for murder. But now there's a state, I didn't know it went that deep. But now it's even deeper. Because I said in that podcast, I said, as it relates to the youth and the gun, it's much more and bigger and greater. As far as this gun control thing goes, it's something much more greater and sinister at work. You need to tackle the whole problem. But another report has came out, or a finding has came out that we're now knowing. In addition to all these juveniles being charged and arrested with these crimes, is putting a huge burden on, of course, the juvenile justice system and the juvenile detention centers, jails. They can't keep up, once again. Now in 2020, complaints against juveniles, they're up by 19%. For 11-year-olds, they're up 29%. And from 12 to 13-year-olds, they're up 35%. Good Lord, what are these kids doing? Well, that's like I said a podcast or so ago, there's no parental involvement. Parents may be out there themselves. Parents may be working hard trying to provide. But when you got complaints up 19% across the board and 11-year-olds are up 29% and 12 to 13-year-olds are up 35%, that's a huge problem. And what has come out now is what is really being discussed is the state at this point in time can't house them. They say they don't have the space. So much so that 13 of the state's juvenile facilities are so overcrowded that these kids have to sleep on the floor in day rooms. Now well, it's like that in regular prison, isn't it? Yeah, it's like that in regular prison. So why is it such a shock? They don't have the space. They don't have the funding. But the state of North Carolina has came out and they vowed to give additional funding, the state legislature and the governor also. So they need the funding to get these things up and running. They're getting ready to open some more facilities. And another thing that came out is kind of, it's not funny, but good luck. That's all I can tell you for the state. They're saying that they're maxed out as far as job vacancies goes. They're at 130%. They're maxed out. They don't have any. They have the vacancies, but they don't have anyone to fill the positions. So they're at 130% of just maxed out. They can't move. They can't do anything. Like I said, they're been vowed or it's been promised that they're going to get more state funding to the system so they can build more juvenile detention centers. That's coming down the pipe. And what they're saying is they're expecting about 3 more facilities to be open within the next 6 months. As far as the job vacancies goes, good luck. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I'm just gonna be honest. You're gonna find a few, and you might find a lot, but they're gonna have to be young, because an old guy like me, no way, I could do that. I just couldn't. This problem has festered for so long. These kids have been left out there for so long by themselves to raise themselves, to do whatever they want to, and now you're trying to get a handle on it. Good luck. I wish you all the best of luck in the world with getting those jobs filled, because they're saying the number they gave, like I said, 130% as far as the vacancies goes is being maxed out of what they need, and they also came out and said, hey, in addition to the building and the funding of these programs and building these juvenile detention centers, you're going to have to up the pay rate also. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're going to have to pay those folks to come in there and contend with that. Something that we, as a society, let's just be honest with each other. Like I said last time, you can't put these on these elected officials. You can't put the whole blame on elected officials and the justice system as a whole, including the police and the judges. Us as citizens, we have allowed this to fester for so long, and now it's coming to a head. So good luck with filling those jobs. You certainly gotta you have to raise the salary before folks even consider to come in and deal with that. It is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. It's just a fact. Folks aren't just going to come in and work for pennies and have their life in danger. You look at the police vacancies here in Durham and Raleigh. That's the main contributing factor why they have all those vacancies. The pay. Who's going to put their life on the line? Who's going to take a time away from their family for pennies and then be scrutinized and ridiculed? Not too many, if any. You won't even do that on your regular job. I know I won't. I tell you, you're off your rocker if you think I'm going to stand here and deal with this for what I get paid. So yeah, you guys are going to have to up that pay. And they talked to one official as to the reasoning, what they have now determined the reason why the complaints against juveniles are skyrocketed, and why so many juveniles are in trouble with the law. Their reasoning, one of them was of course COVID. At that time, during that quarantining and isolation, and that was another thing that came out. Those kids that were already having mental issues, they couldn't get to those therapists like that. There was quarantine, so they tried to do Zoom or whatever. But that basic necessity, or one of the basic necessities of human life, is human interaction, visual and verbal and physical, that was taken away. So a lot of these kids, they couldn't get to those therapists, they couldn't talk to these people, get whatever was on their mind off. They turned to violent crime. Yeah, COVID. Boy, COVID just, woo. It shook everything up. Like I've said numerous times, it exposed our fallacies and flaws in how we interact in life, business, home life, work relationship, justice system. It exposed everything. So, if there's anything I could say or would think, as it relates to COVID, and now hearing this with these kids, and they're saying that's one of the main contributing factors as to why the crime amongst juveniles have gone up, is because of COVID and their lack of getting that care and attention they needed. COVID exposed it. Got to come up with a different plan, a different avenue. Not saying that we might have another outbreak or whatever. I'm not saying that. But maybe it'll be something different. And we got to be prepared. Because COVID just shook everything up in our lives. Our little comfortable lives are no more. But yeah, with these juvenile numbers, I'm thinking 11 to 13. Why, what in the world? I was nowhere near it. Didn't want to be. So maybe times have changed. Maybe things have gotten that much harsh and hard and horrible. But I don't think, I know I wasn't anywhere near this. So as far as the state of North Carolina goes, with these numbers and the lack of, at one time, the funding and now the need to build more facilities, good luck. And good luck with filling those job vacancies also. Yeah, y'all going to have to come up off that pay a whole lot. I hope it's more than what you guys have been, or what you're thinking. Because that's a daunting task just by itself, to be in a juvenile detention center, and it just doesn't encompass the officials that are guarding them, because you're going to have to allocate more funding and more hiring for these juvenile counselors also, mental health experts. So I hope the state of North Carolina is ready to foot the bill, because it's going to be a long haul. It ain't just finding those little guards and putting them in the nice little uniforms and shoving them up in there with these kids. You're going to have to go across the board and change some things. Or we're going to have a system like we have now, overcrowded. Just a revolving door, like they do in the main justice system with the adults. It's much more than just funding. Like I said, it's much more than that. So we'll see what happens with this. Keep you guys updated on that. Man, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to skedaddle. I'm off today. Temperature's a little cool. The fall is here. Sun's out. Feels good. A little breezy. But it's the fall. So I think I'll go, relax, find something to do. Besides sitting around watching football. I got to get out the house. Got to get out the house. Got to get out of the house. Yeah, I watch football I have not done that in a while, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watch football all day Thursday. Every game I was on. It's been a long time. That's just the way that I chose to relax that day. And I did. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to skedaddle. Hey, get in that comment section. Let me know what you think about, what I talked about today. What's going on in the Sudan? This ethnic cleansing. What's going on with our juveniles? There's a lot going on with us in this world. But when you hear the story of what's going on in the Sudan, I gotta say, like I said, I've been hearing it for a while, and I gotta say, it's gotta stop. That has to stop. There's no way you can tell me or convince me that what's the reasoning? Why are you going to a foreign land, a continent, and going to certain countries and extinguishing the people there, the citizens that have been there for their generations, can go back pretty much since the beginning of time, and they can trace it back. So why are you there again? Yeah. Just thought. And hey, let me know what you think about the UK's Prime Minister. And him saying, hey, at the height of COVID, when folks were dying, when they were quarantined in the UK, he was saying, just let them die. We don't need to go back into a second lockdown. That affects and destroys our economy too much. Same thing was said here in the United States from a representative. Maybe that's the way politicians think of us. We're voters. We're just a vote. We lack the inability to vote. We're bleeding the economy. Get rid of them. Let them die. Pretty much sounds like what it's saying. So let me know what you guys think about that. And of course, let me know what you think about the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, boy, they are saying they are going to the Super Bowl. How? When? Oh, boy, you gotta love their fans. Their fans, they're the best fans in the world. I'm sorry. Those Cowboy fans, they're top notch. They won't give up. They won't stop hooping and hollering for nothing or nobody. They are the best. But let me know what you think about that and these other topics I talked about. Or hey, give me an idea for some more topics. I'm open to that. Like I said, I'm pretty thick-skinned. I won't bite. Not physically, verbally I may. But hey, like I always say, I think we as human beings, we've gotten away from that moment in time where we could talk and communicate, agree or disagree, or be open to learn something new. We've gotten away from that, and it's showing in our everyday dealings in life and what's going on throughout the world. You know, you can't tell your children to yada, 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 this, that, listen, be mindful, be respectful, but yet they go out into the world and they see the complete opposite, and they're treated the complete opposite. They're treated as being weak because they don't want to tangle with you. Just us. So, hey, let me know what you think. And as always, thank you for listening. This is Stephen Carnegie for This Is Just a Thought. Amen.